Hey, welcome back to the National Defense. It's Randy Miller. And, every time you hear something about Tonal, and I'm telling you about my Tonal every single week, but you find out different things about how much Tonal cares about the community of people who use Tonal, even to the point of making their own podcast. And this is fantastic. There's a podcast called Superset. Be sure you say that correctly. Superset with Tom and Crystal O'Keefe joining us here in the National Defense. Hey guys, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Listen, I've listened to a few of the podcasts. Excellent work. Really good.
Well, thank you.
And very interesting. I think I think a lot of people that don't even own a Tonal, I think they could get something out of this because you delve into so many different topics. And Crystal, why don't we start with you? Tell me how this all came about in terms of the podcast.
Sure. Yeah. Well, it's kind of a long history, so I'll be brief, but it actually started through, I found my love of fitness through Peloton. And I started a podcast about Peloton called The Clip Out. And Tom encouraged me to do that because I had a very buttoned up job and I was looking for a creative outlet. He had done podcasts. He comes from a radio background. So he was like, why don't you do that? And so then I loved it. And I found out about Tonal, fell in love with Tonal. And I was like, I would like to start another podcast. And, and that is how the Superset was born.
Yeah.
Well, okay. When you say Superset, I mean, you guys are a superset. There's no question about that.
That's why we
you're
picked the name.
You're the super of all sets. But you're also talking about a kind of way to exercise, right? In terms of lifting, Tom?
Yeah. And, the funny thing is that, so, we had this other podcast about Peloton and we did hundreds of episodes. I've never touched a Peloton. Like, I don't like to work out or exercise. I feel weird saying this in front of a podcast that targets military
so you're perfect,
who are tough. And I'm like the exact opposite of that, right? Like, I'm very indoorsy on a nice spring day. I like watch TV with the windows open. Like, that's
right.
And, and so, but she loved it and I loved her. And so I'll do the show with you. And then we started doing the Tonal one. And I was like, well, this kind of intrigues me. This one's a little different. And I just kind of started doing it. I've never really worked out for any length of time in my life ever.
But wait a minute though. But let's tell the backstory of that. You secretly worked out for about a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did it. Now, not a secret from her, but a secret from our listeners.
Yeah.
And because my brand had always been that, like, I'm lazy. When people would complain about, like, oh, I hurt my knee, and I'm just like, you know what? My body's in like new condition. I've never used it. I haven't broken a bone.
It's never been fatigued. It's never been.
Yeah.
Yes. Right.
Yeah. And so I felt weird, like, just being like, oh, I work out now. Right. Because I was also like, I didn't want to do it for like 2 weeks and then stop. And then I made a big deal about working out and then stopped. And now I'm that guy.
Right.
And so I was just like, I don't want to put it out there. I just felt really weird about putting that into the universe that I was actually using physical exertion. And
well,
so
I think you did it in the right manner. I think you did it in the right order because, it's one thing to work out and get the benefits and everything from Tonal. It's another thing to start working out for the first time in your life and start a podcast about it.
Yes, that seems a bit braggadocious.
I mean,
yeah, like, slow your roll, dude. You lifted one weight.
I got a new podcast called I Did a Push-Up.
Right.
Right. I understand.
But it would be Crystal, an incline push-up, like an easy one.
Right. But now, so Crystal, you've always been into physical fitness. What took you from Peloton to Tonal, and what were the big distinctions for you there?
So Peloton is it's always been about cardio for me. Their first product offering was a bike, and then they moved over to the treadmill, and I love both of those, but it was a lot of cardio. Whenever I would go to the gym and try to do any kind of weight training, I was incredibly intimidated. I wanted nothing to do with it. People throwing weights around and loud grunts and stuff. It was terrifying. I had no idea what I was doing, and I did not feel comfortable learning about it in a gym environment. And then I found out that the Tonal, you can not only work out from home, but you don't have to write down your reps and write down what weight you used last time, and you don't have to remember to add a pound. And also a 5-pound increase is a big jump, and that tends to be pretty normal. And so that's a really big jump. And I never knew when is the right time to move to that 5 pounds. So when I found out that this machine, this amazing, beautiful machine, will do all of that for me, it adds a pound. I don't have to think. All I have to do is show up and hit a button. I am all in. Yes.
Yeah.
Now. And, the thing I love just real quick about the 1 pound weight thing is that it just does it. Right.
It doesn't
right.
It just says you're ready for 1 more pound, and who notices 1 more pound. Right. And so but over time that 1 more pound becomes 10 more pounds, and it just stair steps you so subtly that you don't really realize you're doing extra until it's too late and they've tricked you.
Well, it's kind of like, Tom, I always heard when I was a kid that if you get a baby pig and you start lifting it, and if you lift it every single day, by the time it's the whole hog, you can still lift it.
Okay. Is that true? That's fascinating.
No idea. I have no idea.
I want a baby pig for Christmas.
It's kind of the same. The great thing about you guys, though, so a married couple, working out together, doing a podcast together, what kind of feedback do you get from your listeners, and what kind of, because I think Tonal describes this as a fan-led podcast, right? So do they determine the topics? Do they ask a lot of questions? What is that like?
No, they're pretty hands off. I mean, they'll give us some guest suggestions, and that's very cooperative, like, because we're always looking for guests, and so they might suggest a topic, but
they have things that they want to make sure that we cover, but it's not like do these things in this order. They're more like, hey, we thought about maybe you should talk about this brand new feature that we have, and we're like, absolutely, because this new feature is amazing.
And half the time it's like, well, of course we were going to talk about that.
Of course we were going to do that. Right. Next on the list.
Is that our first date, Tonal? Jeez.
Crystal, when Tom got into the Tonal, did you have to kind of walk him through and help him along, or did he take right to it?
He took right to it. And
it's really simple to use.
Not only is it simple to use, but he hates exercise still.
Yeah.
Really, it's better for me not to be in the room because there's yelling.
Sometimes.
He's like yelling at the machine. He's mad, not because the machine's doing anything wrong, but because it's asking him to do things he doesn't want to do.
Yeah.
But I have to tell a funny story about Tom. The very first, whenever you get your Tonal, the first thing you do is do
an assessment.
And so Tom, that was what he was going to do. That was all he was going to try, was the assessment.
I'm like, I'm just going to do the assessment and see. We're supposed to talk about this thing because they were advertiser on the other podcast originally. And so I was like, well, if we got to talk about this thing, I'm going to do this thing once just to see how it works.
Right. So he does the assessment and promptly lays down on the floor next to it and falls asleep
for like 40 minutes. Guy was out.
Well, hey, listen, in Tom's defense, assessments can be brutal.
Yeah.
I mean, they can knock you right out.
And it did.
It did.
It absolutely did.
Well, it's funny because when I got my Tonal, I was just going to have it for myself. And my wife rides horses. She rides bikes. She's got, her kind of a deal. Well, after the first couple of times, I'm telling her about it because I'm so excited about it that, hey, it's a 43-minute workout I did. I thought I was going to die. I didn't think I was going to get through it. And then I got through it and I felt great about myself. And so then she's kind of a little curious. Now she does Tonal more often than I do. And now it's got to be kind of a competition, which I will always lose.
Oh, are you guys like comparing strength scores and stuff?
Yes.
Oh,
we just went on vacation. We drove to California, and just like you were talking about, Crystal, we wanted to work out while we were on the road. So we went to a gym. I had no idea, like you say, all the data, how much you can lift, all this kind of stuff. But guess what? My Tonal data does. And so I just checked into that. knew exactly the kind of weights I needed to lift. And man, that just makes it so much more convenient.
Absolutely. It's a game changer.
It is.
And they have so many workouts you can do right on the app while you're traveling. So if you can do body strength workouts, so you don't even have to go to the gym. If you can't make it to a gym, you've got another option.
We considered that, but when you're doing workouts to the side of the road, people, they talk and they point and they gawk.
Yeah.
And so just to kind of, get away from the gawking.
That's
well, put your shirt on. They're gawking at the
that's
abs.
You know what, that's a great point. That could have
built. They're like, they're
like,
staring.
who's that ripped guy on the side of the road?
Sure. Yeah.
Does he need a ride?
Does he need $1? So Tom, you've got a little bit of a military connection. Well, I think you both do, right?
Yeah. My grandpa was in the Korean War, and he was a vet, and he actually got to go back to Korea. It was 2018 that he got to go back, and
oh wow.
Yeah, they were doing I think they've stopped them now because the age of the veterans, like they're just not traveling like they did.
The honor flights.
Yeah, he did. Well, it wasn't an honor flight, but it was like a tour that the Korean government would subsidize, and they would take him to like. And he was talking one day about how much he'd love to go back to Korea, and I was like, man, there's got to be something. So we hopped on the Google machine, and sure enough, there were these tours subsidized by the Korean government.
That's pretty cool.
The Korean government gave him a medal and a bunch of other U.S. veterans.
Yeah, and they had a whole ceremony. And thanked them.
Wow,
it was very amazing.
They look back on the Korean War, at least South Korea does, right? And as like thankful for what America did for them. So like that was refreshing. Change.
So he came back as a hero.
Yeah.
Yes,
absolutely.
He did. He did.
And then my dad was in the Navy, but he kind of threaded that needle in between Korea and Vietnam. So
good for him.
Yeah, it was funny. Like he was in the Navy, and I would see pictures every once in a while, but he would never really talk about it. And as I got older, he even kind of said, he's like, so many people from his generation had actually seen action and lost people, and he's like, my experience in the Navy was practically summer camp, and he's just like, I don't feel right going around talking about my time in the Navy when I just went on a boat ride for 2 years,
Right. Well, when we have Navy guys on the show, all they want to talk about is what kind of golf courses they played. So, the Navy gets the Navy and the Air Force get all the all the nice golf courses. So you guys have been doing this podcast, Superset, for Tonal, for how long now?
We actually just celebrated a year.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I just think it says a lot that a company like Tonal will, create this and make it available to their community. It says a lot about what they want people to know. And they're always, sending you more information, updating everything, innovating everything. You guys are kind of on the inside of Tonal. Is there a lot more innovation coming?
I can't answer that question, but as a person who uses Tonal, I would guess that yes, that there is.
Yeah, because they seem to always be doing that.
Totally.
Yes.
I mean, if you've had it for any length of time, like they're constantly making changes, and not in an irritating way, but like they're just constantly making adjustments to whether it's or however you can. If you don't like one move, you can replace it with a similar.
You know what? It's feedback from the community.
Yeah.
That's those changes. They have like a every week they have Feedback Friday in their official Facebook group, and people come up with ideas, and they're working on those ideas, and that's absolutely amazing. I love that.
Feedback Friday. I need to make a note of that because I thought it was Fish Fry. Right. Okay.
It doesn't have to be either or. You can
do both.
Yeah.
You can do both.
So what's the best way for people to access the Superset podcast?
We're available wherever you get a podcast. So if you just type in the Superset, you should use the that would be helpful. I think there's another defunct podcast just called Superset or Supersets or something like that. But
there's I know it's on Spotify. That's what.
Yep.
But
on
Spotify, Apple
Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeart, TuneIn, wherever you get a podcast, you should be able to find us.
Yep.
This is great stuff, man. This is fun, and I would encourage people to check out the Superset, podcast because it is a lot of fun and you learn so much about it. And my thinking is that the tonal people are pretty smart, that if you tune into your podcast, you don't have a tonal, you're going to get a tonal. I think that's kind of where that's headed. So
I think
congratulations.
I was going to say, I think it works on both levels. If you want to know more about tonal, it's great for that. But if you also love your tonal and want to use it better or learn more about the other people in the community, it works on that level too.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations to you guys for a year. That's fantastic.
Thank you.
And thanks for coming on. Maybe we can have you back, pretty soon if you get some crazy listeners you want to talk about that would welcome that.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Anytime.
Tom and Crystal, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll be right back here in the National Defense.